For Calvert, this issue is an easy one for us in the sense that we see potential risk, yet at the same time we see an opportunity to work with other investors, with human rights activists, various NGOs, and not least with large apparel brands to try to curtail these practices. It's been very clear that there is brand risk to major companies in various sectors, perhaps above all in the footwear and apparel sectors, to companies that tolerate or are seen somehow to be tolerating human rights abuses, whether in the workplace or otherwise. And this is a set of lessons that so many companies and investors have learned the hard way, going back to the mid-90s. Tremendous progress has been made by a number of brand apparel retailers in particular who've put in place codes of conduct, compliance and monitoring processes, reporting mechanisms, and we're in a much better place today than we were a dozen or 15 years ago. That said, it's essential for civil society, for governments, for international institutions, for investors to remain absolutely vigilant. Labor rights are at stake every day, and with them, investor risk. And we as social investors in particular are sensitive to the kinds of risks the companies that we might invest in face when there are documented abuses on the scale that we've encountered in Uzbekistan. The SRI community is looking to the retail brands to do two fundamental things. First, to curtail sourcing of Uzbek cotton. That's a necessary step until we are satisfied that the government of Uzbekistan is taking the appropriate steps to acknowledge and address the problem and to eliminate over the next several years the use of child labor in the cotton sector. Second, we are asking companies not only to curtail their sourcing, but to come together and to work with investors, with labor and human rights groups, and other interested parties to urge the government of Uzbekistan to take those appropriate steps. So it's really a dual strategy of building pressure and at the same time encouraging engagement. But the point of building the pressure is to solve the problem. It's not to punish or isolate Uzbekistan, but it's to get the attention of the government to take the appropriate, necessary, and urgent steps. We would like to see the government of Uzbekistan invite the ILO to Tashkent and elsewhere in the country to observe the upcoming harvest, to assess the overall problem and to recommend an action plan to address it. We believe that the ILO has the legitimacy and the capacity to work with the government of Uzbekistan to solve this problem. We think that it's going to take a long-term commitment of several years, but with that kind of commitment, the problem can be solved over time. What's remarkable is the breadth and depth of the coalition that's come together, bringing together brand apparel retailers, social investors, and labor and human rights NGOs who share the same analysis of the problem in Uzbekistan, who share the same objectives, and coordinate together strategy and tactics to achieve those objectives. I've not seen in my decade or more of working on these kinds of issues, labor and human rights issues around the world, such close coordination within such a broad and diverse coalition as I've seen with this issue. And that is a testament both to the growing maturity of the corporate responsibility movement in the U.S. and around the world, but above all, a reflection of the severity of the problem of forced child labor in Uzbekistan that has brought together such significant yet diverse stakeholders to work together to achieve a common goal here.